Each year in the United States, thousands of major crimes go unsolved. When the case has gone cold and police have nowhere to turn, they seek assistance from the public. This is a program dedicated to solving these cases. This is Crime Stoppers Case Files.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for another Northeast Ohio edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files. I'm Bob Frantz. There are over 1,400 Crime Stoppers organizations operating around the world. These organizations empower citizens like you to become directly and anonymously involved in fighting crime in our communities. On May 8, 2009, 29-year-old Amir Devaughn was shot twice in the head while driving down East 120th Street near Princeton Avenue. Here's the tragic story.
My son Amir is the only son that I had, and he was a very quiet, meek young man from the time he was born. We called him Bubba. When I was in the military and had him, we named him Bubba because that was basically a nickname for everybody in Key West, Florida.
I can remember when they moved to Florida and they came back up from Florida. That's some of my earliest memories of him and his sisters and stuff when we was younger. He was a pretty quiet guy, little guy. He was real quiet and he was real smart. Liked to throw around a little football and baseball with me and my brother and him.
And he was just a good passive kid. Fact of the matter, I really never had to chasing him, as far as spanking him, because he always listened. I just tried to distill in him from the time he was little his faith in God. He took to that because he was the most spiritual child that I had. Out of all my three children, I have three children. One daughter older than him, and one daughter under him. He was the middle child. He grew up to be a good man. He was very intelligent. He was very articulate.
Once he was in his teens, we spent a lot of time together. Still was a real smart guy, real quiet still.
He liked poetry. He was very gifted at writing. And he liked to collect antiques and build his cars, and it kind of, to me, had an engineering mind. He has two daughters. The youngest daughter, she just really took to him. It's amazing because she's 3 now, and she's well-spoken. I mean, her command in the English language at that age just astonishes me. Bubba was like that. That was his personality. That's what type of guy he was, And as time went on, started hanging out with the wrong element. Me, I was a roof contractor. I'm constantly gone all the time. I was there, but I basically wasn't there, spending a lot of time with him as far as throwing the baseball and things like that. I missed out on a lot of his childhood by not being there. I was physically there, but I'm not there trying to keep a roof over their heads. Coming home tired and exhausted and just not spending time with my son. If I look back now, I kind of regret those things. So I will tell any parent, spend time with your kids. But I know my son loved me and I loved him dearly. And I know he knew that I loved him dearly.
Cleveland 911.
Yeah, I just heard gunshots right on the corner of 120th and Princeton, and there's a car that's right now just in the middle of the street, and there was 2 guys that got out of it, and they headed west on Princeton. Now I'm looking down the street now, and I don't know if
the guy jumped out of the vehicle or the vehicle?
I don't know if there's still someone in the vehicle that they shot, but the car is like in the middle of the street right now.
You got any closing description on the 2 guys that ran eastbound on Princeton?
They went westbound on Princeton. I don't have a description, no.
All right, we'll notify EMS, okay?
All right, okay,
thank you. Bye.
On Friday, May 8, 2009, at approximately 4:05 p.m., my victim, Amir Devaughn, was in his vehicle at the location of East 120th and Princeton. According to the witnesses, Amir was driving with 2 other males in the vehicle, one in the passenger seat, one in the back seat. As we got to 120th Street, shots were heard. At that point, the male that was in the front seat of the vehicle was observed exiting the vehicle with a handgun in his hand. The male in the back seat was the one that was observed taking a bag and tucking under his arm. Both males were observed running westbound on Princeton Avenue. The victim's auto rolled through this intersection and ended up catty-corner on the south curb at 120th Street. Inside, the victim was slumped. He had 2 bullet wounds to the right side of his temple, 2 very close shots, which means that the individual had to have been in the front seat and reached around and shot him twice in the head. The male with the gun was observed putting in his back pocket behind a tree on Princeton Avenue. One of the males shouted, "Go through the cut," which means the shortcut. At that time, both males ran up a driveway approximately 7 houses down from the scene. southbound and disappeared.
And I got a call from my daughter, and as soon as I answered the phone, she said, you know, Bud was dead. And from that point, I was basically in shock. I'm like, I can't believe, I'm in disbelief. You know, but I'm trying to stay rational about the situation, explain to her, and I hear a lot of screaming and hollering in the background. I immediately jumped in my car and got on 90 and drove straight home, basically nonstop, because I was just in a state of shock. That's basically all I can say. I was surreal.
We'll be right back with more on the story of the murder of Amir Devaughn, right after this.
In 1975, the first Crime Stoppers organization was formed by a detective who believed media attention helped solve cases. Since then, thousands of Crime Stoppers organizations have been formed around the globe with the same mission, encouraging members of the public to stand up against crime. Every 14 minutes, Crime Stoppers help solve a crime somewhere in the world. Get involved.
On May 8, 2009, at the location used 120th in Princeton Avenue, Amir Devaughn was shot in his auto, and 2 males were observed running from the vehicle after the shooting.
In between 3:30, he came home, he seen his mother, he hugged his mother and told her he'd be back. But from the time he left his mother's house, our house, he was supposed to meet a friend. Really, he was seen by 2 individuals on the corner who had waved to him. I guess they said he was going to come back, one guy's a barber, to get his hair cut. And when I actually talked to this individual, I asked him, did it look like my son was under duress? Because she said he seen 2 other individuals in the car with my son, 2 young little guys, you know, which seemed kind of out of character for my son because he was 29 at the time. And, you know, he didn't associate with 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, but this is what these individuals look like. You know, 30 minutes later, my son was dead.
Shots rang out, and 2 males were observed jumping out of Mr. Devaughn's 2007 Kia. The victim's auto rolled through the intersection and came to rest on the opposite corner. EMS was called. When paramedics arrived, they observed 2 gunshot wounds to the victim's head, and he was apparently deceased at this time. Well, the witnesses said both males appeared to be young. One was approximately 5'11", and the other one was like 5'3". According to the family, Amir was a very cautious person. He wouldn't let anyone in his car that he didn't know. So the family believes that he knew the 2 gentlemen that shot him.
Right before Bubba passed, my brother passed, and the only people I hung with was him and my brother, so I don't do nothing no more. I stay in the house and just...
But I never stopped thinking about him, and you never stop crying. You cry till you can't cry anymore, you know. As a parent, you know, to lose your child before you leave is something I can't explain to the average individual, and you really can't understand what I'm saying unless you're there. I really wouldn't wish this on anybody. That's the only son that I had. It's devastating. And I had to rely on God to carry me through this, and God will work through my fellow human beings to comfort me. Because I lost my child, and it's going to happen again to some other family, and this is just needless and it's senseless.
Police are looking for 2 black males. One was approximately 5'3" tall, and the other was 5'11". And we'll be right back with more on Crime Stoppers Case Files. On September 6, 2002, 39-year-old Ronald Miller was shot at a park near West 19th and Denison. Cleveland homicide detectives need your help in solving this cold case crime. Here's the tragic story.
I met Ron through a friend of mine. I was 14. We met actually at the house they shot the Christmas story at. He was living there, and my girlfriend asked, "Don't you think he's cute?" And I said no. But eventually, you know, he was sweet. Do little things like asked to paint my nails, and I thought, wow. So he won me over. We ended up with 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. He wanted the girl. He said he wanted daddy's girl.
Me and him had ended up inventing our own little kisses, kind of like Eskimo kisses, except for it was bubble kisses. We'd put our cheeks together. It was our own special thing, and when I tried doing it with my mom, he got mad that was our thing. I shouldn't be sharing it.
I would describe him as a Harley guy with a heart. Tattoos, just really outgoing. Everyone liked him. He was just very skilled mechanically, artist, he had a lot going for him. He knew what he was doing.
We have plenty of drawings that he had made. He drew anything from farmhouses to Harley Davidsons. Motorcycles was his passion. He had a Harley Sportster, but he was never satisfied with it. He always was working on more and more. He liked to rebuild them. He loved to paint them. He was building one from scratch when he passed away.
He really strived for people to like him, you know. And he just had a great big smile. You know, didn't have the perfect teeth, but he always had a big smile.
Just his sense of humor. He was funny, always joking around. He'd sing. We had that in common. We'd sing and act silly together.
We were always doing family outings. We'd like to go out, get ice cream, go to the park. We started doing family vacations. One year we went to Canada. It was very enjoyable. But in the hotel, my brother had jumped in bed with him, and then me and the other brother had jumped on top of him. We were always playing around, joking around.
They would play jokes on him because they'd think it was funny. You know, we'd like to see him get scared because he's always acting like he was tough.
It was always just one big happy time anytime we'd be with him.
On Friday, September 6, 2002, at the location of 1821 Princeton Avenue, my victim, Ronald Miller, was having a few drinks at the Bluegrass Inn, and after he completed his drinks, he walked across the street and was hitchhiking home. While he was hitchhiking, he was approached by two black males on mountain bikes. There was a conversation with the victim at this time. We believe the males to have been armed because the victim followed them into the park. They rode their bicycles, he walked on foot. A short time after he arrived in the park, a couple of shots were heard, and the two males were seen fleeing through the park. Our victim staggered out into Princeton Avenue where he collapsed. From there, EMS was called. He was taken to Metro Hospital where he later died of his wounds.
We went to Metro, and they told us to sit there and wait that he was in surgery. So we sat out in the waiting area probably about an hour and a half before somebody came out. And
they ended up bringing in his belongings in a plastic bag. And at that point, I kind of knew it wasn't good. And it wasn't too long after that that a nurse finally came to talk to us.
She told me they lost him. I couldn't grasp the concept of, what do you mean you lost him? You don't understand it. You know, you're like in shock.
You don't know how to act. You don't know how to react to something like that. One day he's there, next day he's gone. There's no closure, there's no nothing. There's just someone saying he died.
Crime Stoppers is an international organization dedicated to bringing resolution to unsolved crimes. Members of the public work with police to make the world a safer place. Since 1975, thousands of Crime Stoppers organizations worldwide have helped make over 1 million arrests. Crime Stoppers acts as your advocate, keeping you anonymous and ensuring that your information gets to the right law enforcement agency.
On Friday, September 6, 2002, my victim, Ronald L. Miller, was at the location of 1821 Princeton Avenue, where he was approached by two males on bicycles. He was shot and died approximately 2 hours later from his injuries.
It happened at 8:35 on a Friday night, so it was still pretty light out. The witnesses said that they heard 3 gunshots. They thought it was fireworks, they didn't know. And he come stumbling out with his hand on the side, holding his side, and he collapsed on the sidewalk.
The description of the suspects were 2 black males on mountain bikes, believed to be juveniles. They both had on ball caps. They were between 16, 17 years of age. The weapon was believed to be a small caliber weapon, a .25 automatic. 1 shell casing was found at the scene.
The bullet went in and hit his small intestines, the large intestines, and then the aorta. They were almost done with surgery, but he had cardiac arrest again and they couldn't revive him.
After everything happened, we went down to the scene. All I can really remember and all I can really think of is seeing the blood spattered all the way down the sidewalk. It's just something you won't forget. Like, it's hard to even imagine what happened to your dad, you know?
Being a female, your dad's supposed to be the one that walks you down the aisle. And I'll never have that. Yeah, I have brothers, but it's not the same. It's not your dad giving away, you know, his little girl.
You know, he wanted a grandchild so bad. He was saying it one day, we were laying there in bed, and he said, I can't wait to be a pap-pap. And I didn't know where he came up with the word pap-pap. And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, I want to be a pap-pap. I'll take them to get their hair cut. And I said, don't be wishing that on me, you know. I'm not ready, you know, we're young.
When I gave birth to my son a couple months ago, I really wanted him around for it. I wanted him to be there to see not only my son, but he has another grandson, you know, to see both of his grandsons grow up.
The thing that kills me deep inside, like what could have been, you know? My future could have been changed. My whole family could have been changed. We could have been in a whole different life right now.
I know there are people out there that know what happened. There's people that's come to me and pretty much told me they knew, but they can't talk, or they're scared for their family, or they're scared of repercussions.
Just have a little bit of empathy. Think of how you would feel if that was your dad, your husband, your family member. Put yourself where we are. We don't have any justice, any closure. You have all these questions. What was his last words? Why? The main question, why? Why did you do it? It's what I want, closure.
Well, since this time, we've interviewed many people. We've gotten a lot of leads, but they go back to square one. We need somebody out there that knows something about this homicide that can call us and give us information so we can get these guys in custody.
Hopefully someone in their heart realizes this guy didn't deserve it. This guy wasn't supposed to die. He had kids, he had a future, he had a life that he could have really did something with.
Ronald Miller left behind a grieving wife and 3 children, and he never got to meet his grandchildren. Thank you once again for joining us for another episode of Crime Stoppers Case Files, where you are empowered to help clean up our streets. Remember, our towns and our neighborhoods are a direct reflection of what we allow them to be. So let's all do our part to make them safe. And we'll see you next week for another edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files.